So we're all excited to see Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, but here's the deal. Old man Steve Rogers, he's already seen them both, or should I say lived them both. And this new teaser for Avengers Doomsday proves it. Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and the first teaser for Avengers Doomsday is here, and it features the return of the man himself, Chris Evans, as Steve Rogers.
Sorry, what?
Sorry, wrong switch.
But we need to talk about what this means for Sam Wilson's Captain America, what this tells us about Doomsday and Secret Wars plot, how this will all connect to Endgame where we saw Steve as an old man, and how this is all setting the stage for Chris Evans to continue playing Steve Rogers in this post-Secret Wars saga of the MCU. So we're going to explain all of it, and I will tell you exactly what this guy got up to between this moment and this moment, and how this Doomsday trailer is just our first glimpse at a lot of story to still be told. So at the end of Avengers Endgame, we see Steve Rogers step onto a newly constructed time platform with a briefcase full of Infinity Stones. Infinity Stones that the Avengers borrowed from the past to undo Thanos' snap and bring back everyone that he dusted away. Now you'll notice that Steve also has Thor's hammer that Thor borrowed from his past self, so Steve is returning that as well. But you'll also notice that what Steve doesn't have is his shield. More on that in a minute. So before Steve leaves, he and Bruce have this quick exchange.
You have to return the stones at the exact moment you got them. You're going to open up a bunch of nasty alternative realities.
Don't worry, Bruce. Clip all the branches.
And guys, this line right here was a major setup for the multiverse saga that was to come. Avengers Endgame served not only as the closing chapter for the Infinity Saga, but it was the prelude to this entire multiverse story and our path to Avengers Doomsday, which, yes, was once Avengers the Kang Dynasty, but we have to remember, guys, Avengers Secret Wars, that was always the plan. And I think the return of Chris Evans as Steve Rogers was always part of the plan as something to happen in Secret Wars. But after the whole pivot with Jonathan Majors and Kang and all that, we're seeing that story start earlier with Avengers Doomsday. So anyway, this whole concept of variant realities and branches, which is exactly what Steve calls those timelines here, that has been a main part of this multiverse saga. The Loki series and What If and everything leading to this multiversal calamity in Doomsday was set up in Avengers Endgame. So Steve is supposed to go back in time, return the stones, making it as if they never left, and making it to where these branching realities seemingly never existed, and essentially pruning them like the TVA would.
We can return each one to its own timeline at the moment it was taken. So, chronologically, it never left.
Now, this does majorly contradict Bruce's earlier remark that
time doesn't work that way. Changing the past doesn't change the future.
And so if that's true, if changing the past doesn't change the future, well, that would line up with returning the stones not truly making it to where they never left, because if they never left, then they couldn't be used in the future for Tony to snap and bring everybody back. But what it doesn't line up with is this idea of if the past doesn't change the future, then why would going back in time and putting the stones back change anything? Theoretically, we'd still have the timeline where the stones never left, but we would also still have the new timelines where they were taken, because changing the past, according to Bruce, doesn't change the future, so putting the stones back shouldn't undo anything. But let's just assume it did work, okay? Let's assume Steve returning the stones did indeed correct the timeline, or, since we later find out that this whole Avengers time heist thing was part of the TVA and He Who Remains plan to begin with, maybe the TVA went in and pruned those timelines like they did for the 2012 timeline where Loki escaped. Anyway, I'm getting a little in the weeds there. The point is, Steve Rogers was to return the stones and come home, but that didn't happen.
Where is he? I don't know. He blew right by his timestamp. He should be here.
After Steve returned the stones, he decided to travel back to the 1940s and live a life with Peggy.
Well, after I put the stones back, I thought maybe I'll try some of that life Tony was telling me to get.
So there has been some debate on whether or not the life that Steve went and lived with Peggy was within the mainline MCU, and that there have secretly been two Steve Rogers living in the MCU all of this time. But guys, the Russo brothers, who directed Endgame and who are directing Doomsday, they have been very clear that their intention was for this to be that Steve created an alternate timeline, a splinter, a branch. And as we'll discuss here shortly, this moment where Steve Rogers was selfish for the first time in his entire entire life, it will result in the very doomsday that is now facing the multiverse. This branching timeline that Steve created and this kid that he and Peggy have that shouldn't exist, that will be a timeline that, one, only exists because Loki is now on the throne, allowing for it to exist and holding all the timelines together, but it's also a timeline that will be one of the many broken pieces of this dying multiverse that Doom will feel the need to clip.
Clip all the branches.
Hey, other guy, do you think we should buy this boat?
No, buddy, I don't think that's a good idea.
But I wanted a boat. Jeez.
Come on, look, Doug, it's the holidays and we all have to learn how to budget better. In fact, I want to take a moment to brag about how I've been able to budget and get a rein on my personal finances here lately. My bank account used to drain the first week of every month, but then Rocket Money helped me plan my budget, lower my bills, and grow my savings. And that's why I love recommending Rocket Money and partnering with them for this video. Rocket Money has helped its members save up to $740 a year when you use all of the app's premium features. They've also helped members save over a total of $880 million in canceled subscriptions. They automatically analyze your accounts to create a custom budget based on your spending habits. Rocket Money even scans your bills to find savings, and they will negotiate your bills for you. No more customer service calls. The app negotiators go to work for you to try to get the best possible rates. And get this, one time I signed up for a free trial for a video stock footage service, and they were about to charge me $2,600 for the whole year. But Rocket Money alerted me that that charge was about to happen, and I canceled the subscription and a lot of other subscriptions that I had totally forgotten about. So to try Rocket Money out today and unlock more features with premium, head to rocketmoney.com/ScreenCrush or click the link in the description below. It's a great tool to help you save money you may not even know you're spending. You can find that link below. Now, back to what I was saying.
Hey, wait a second. If Steve created a branching timeline, then how is he in the main timeline as an old man?
That is a great question, buddy. Let me explain. So after Steve lived his life with Peggy in that other timeline, they got married, they had a baby, as this trailer shows us, and he aged what has to be like, I think, over 100 years old, if you ask me, because he looks old as hell. And theoretically, Steve being a super soldier, that should make him age like gracefully. So this Steve Rogers could be like super old, and he has lived this whole separate life in a different timeline, different reality, and he has now traveled back to the mainline MCU to that same moment that he was supposed to return to all those years ago to make sure that he closes the loop.
Loop? What loop?
Well, the loop that he and we will learn about in Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. And if you guys have heard me explain this next theory before, do feel free to skip ahead, but it is a major piece to this overarching theory of how Steve Rogers has already lived through the events of Doomsday, Secret Wars, and even a post-Secret Wars MCU saga, fighting alongside the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and Sam Wilson, and having experienced all the movies to come in the next saga of the MCU. And hey, Steve, by the way, you want to tell us, what happens in Doomsday, Secret Wars, Mutant Saga?
No, I don't think I will.
And hey guys, by the way, be sure to check out our merch store, ScreenCrushMerch.com. We have a lot of really cool Marvel-inspired parody shirts up for grabs. Some of my favorites, of course, being the Doctor Doom-inspired ones, like the I Hate You 3000. When Steve returns as an old man, he has a shield with him. Now, many have said perhaps this is a shield that he gets made in his new universe, but I have a different theory. I think the Steve Rogers who left on that time platform and went to live that life with Peggy, and who we are seeing in the Doomsday trailer, I think we are going to see him in Doomsday, of course, and in Secret Wars and the next saga of the MCU. And this Steve Rogers living that life that existed between this moment and this moment, I think we still have in store that entire story to be told. I think that while Steve Rogers will simply be called Steve Rogers or Nomad like in the comics, and they won't switch back to him being Captain America and taking that away from Sam, but I do, however, think we could get badass moment in Avengers Doomsday, Secret Wars, maybe in another Captain America movie years down the line with Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers. I would say and Bucky, but I think Doom's gonna make Bucky eat his metal arm. Anyway, we will see, I think, for some reason, Sam giving the shield to Steve, the same shield that old Steve gave to Sam. Now, maybe it's because Sam is dying following his fight with Dr. Doom. Maybe it's because he's just severely injured. I don't know, but I do see Sam handing Steve, who has been plucked out of his happy life timeline to come help fight Doom and fix the multiverse problems that he helped cause. I see Sam handing Steve that shield and telling him to go kick some ass. And for Steve to just be sure that he gets the shield back to him, which I think Sam will say with a wink. And maybe we could even get a great moment where Sam's like, go get him, Cap. And Steve's like, you got it, Cap. Or you got it, Captain. I don't know. It'd be cool. Now, stick with me here, okay? So, young Sam Wilson, the Sam Wilson at the end of Avengers Endgame, before becoming Captain America, at the end of Endgame, he was given the shield by this old time-traveling Steve Rogers. A Steve Rogers who, remember, didn't have a shield when he left because Thanos broke his. Now, when Sam receives this shield, he says that it feels like it belongs to someone else, to which Steve says it doesn't. And that is because that very shield that old man Steve is holding, he will have gotten from a future Sam Wilson. When Sam Wilson, as Captain America, moves forward from this moment in Endgame into his series with Bucky and his Brave New World movie, and now into the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars, where he is reunited now with a young, shieldless Steve Rogers, pulled from the past, the one that we're seeing in this Doomsday trailer, but we have to remember who is also from the future. You get it. If you're watching this video, if you're watching me, I think you get it. That same Steve Rogers who went back in time, who we're seeing in this Doomsday trailer, and who is going to, be in Doomsday, be in Secret Wars, that same Steve Rogers is now destined to grow old and one day travel back to that moment and give Sam the very shield that he is holding here in this scene.
Oh, so like that Chuck Berry song in Back to the Future.
Exactly like that, buddy. You see, in Back to the Future, Marty McFly performs a Chuck Berry song from the future in the past, a song that he only knows because in his present day, aka the future, he has heard Chuck Berry sing this song. But here in the past, before the song even existed, Chuck Berry's cousin calls Chuck while Marty is performing, and that is where Chuck Berry heard the song for the first time, inspiring him to do the song. So Chuck got the song from Marty, who got the song from Chuck, who got it from Marty, who got it from Chuck. You get it. So essentially, the shield, like the song, was never created. It has just always existed, and it has always belonged to Sam and Steve. Now, I tell you all of this to say that Chris Evans can now fully return to the MCU, not only in Doomsday and Secret Wars, but in the next saga as well, as just Super Soldier Steve Rogers, Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Steve Rogers, President of the United States Steve Rogers. Hell, maybe just Nomad, anything. And as long as he doesn't die, and as long as he makes sure that he, as an old man, takes that shield to Sam in the past, then it all works out. In fact, well, I do believe we will get a moment where Sam Wilson is like down for the count and hands the shield to Steve and tells him to go kick some Doom ass. I don't think that they're going to like kill off Sam Wilson or give the Cap moniker back to Steve Rogers for any period of time. I think that Steve could literally just borrow the shield for that moment and then give it right back to Sam. And then it may be way in the future when Sam Wilson's Captain America dies of like old age, or maybe in a big culmination movie 10 or 15 years from now if he dies in battle. That could be the moment that we then see Steve hold on to the shield, and then as an old man, before he himself kicks the bucket, he takes the shield back in time to give to Sam to make sure the loop is closed. And look, after Secret Wars, the MCU is going to undergo a reset of sorts. A lot of different characters from different universes and periods in time are all going to be dropped into one cohesive single universe and timeline where all of the full Marvel universe can now exist as one. The Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Spider-Man, the Avengers, and Sam Wilson's Captain America, and maybe even Steve Rogers and Peggy Carter living in this new modern day reset timeline. Steve and Sam could have many more missions together, and this old man Steve that is bringing Sam the shield, he has already seen it all. All right, well, those are just my thoughts and theories. I would love to hear yours down in the comments below. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time we upload a new video. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.